So I want to show you one of the neat things about Flutter that a lot of other systems like React, Native, etc. do not have. And that's the ability to make simple changes when you're debugging and testing and to see those changes right away. Now, I'm going to go ahead and take this code and I'm going to debug it. And this is why it's going to be important. So I'm going to run and debug. And you're going to notice it's going to take itself a little while to come up to test. And we're just going to sit here and we're going to wait. And we're going to wait. And depending upon what system you have, this can take anywhere from about 45 seconds up to a couple of minutes, depending upon the complexity of the application, what system you're using, such as Flutter versus React versus some of those others. And so you're just waiting. And if you had to make one little change, you have to exit out and then wait all over again. Okay, and now our Chrome has started. It's come up. That's great. And I'm going to go ahead and click on my button to test. Okay, this is working just fine. And I can come in here and, aha, look at that. I can just keep on clicking. That's great. But what happens if I want to say, hey, I don't want this to go more than 10 times? I'm going to switch back to my code, leaving Chrome still up. That's the important thing to keep in mind. We're still leaving that up. Come up here to my increment counter. I'm going to say if underscore counter is less than 10, then I'm going to do my increment operator. Else, and I'm going to say here that counter is going to equal 10. Okay, so this way, if, and just as a quick example, and since I'm over 25, I want to stop that. So I want to reset it back to 10 just as an example, making sure we can't go over in case an initial value is set. I'm going to come up here into my main file, and you'll notice I have a pause, but I also have a little lightning bolt, which is what's called a hot reload. I also have a full restart and a stop, okay? But I'm going to look at that hot reload. This is something that's a little bit different. So I'm going to click on this, and you might have noticed a little something flash on the screen, and then it went away. I'm going to come back here. It resets me back to the beginning, and I can click on that little plus and notice that it is not changing. So we have this and it has stopped. And that is a very effective little tool. That hot reload took about 2 seconds compared to 45 seconds, a minute or so to bring up this code and run it normally. So this is a huge, huge benefit in my opinion. It makes doing those little tweaks a lot faster. Let me give you a perfect example of another little tweak that you might have. If statement, that's fine, but let's take a look at a little tweak that's something that might happen. I come down here and I have some text, and I'm going to say, well, you know what? Just like with my text with the counter, I want to have some other text that I can work with. So I'm going to come in here and do a comma. This is going to allow me to add my style. You'll notice that as I start to type, style comes up. Great thing about the Flutter extension for Visual Studio Code, it knows all the possible code things you might have. And I'm going to choose theme. And of course, that's going to give me of, and we have a context, just like you see in the example below. We have text theme. And then we have what we want to define it as. Now, typically we use body text 2. In this case, I'm going to show you what body text 1 is. So if we don't put anything, body text 2 is what is used by default. I'm going to save this, hot reload. And if I come over here, you'll notice that it's not much of a change, okay? So that hot reload was a pretty minor thing. What happens though if I say maybe headline 3? Boom. Huge difference. Now I can say, oh, wait, this is what I want, or oh, no, that's not what I want. And I can start to make adjustments. So I can come in here and say, well, let me try headline 4 here, headline 2 here. I want that number to really still stand out. If I save it, it does that hot reload for me automatically. You can see how it's adjusted the sizes very, very simply. So hot reload is a great little feature that Flutter gives you, great for making those little tweaks. You don't have to exit out and reload. It's a very effective use of your time as a developer. Now let's look at one of the things you might be asking and thinking about, which is over here. I have this as a final, and final is like defining a constant. You cannot change it, and this is for the title. You can see it's up here where I have Flutter demo homepage. You notice that this is what my title is. This is what gets passed in, okay? So what if I want to change this with changes, okay? I'm going to save this again. And you'll notice that up here in my app bar, the title still shows. And the reason why is very simple. It is having to reload it, okay? So it's not taking the exact same states and everything. It does have to reload it, but that hot reload is so much more efficient. So we can even change things that are quote unquote final, because it does do a refresh for us, but it's so much faster and more efficient. So this is a great little tool, something to look at whenever you're looking at working with Flutter versus other types of tools. Something you might want to consider using, and why you might want to consider using it if your time as a developer is important to you.